Hey, it's KR here talking today about random encounters and how to do random encounters that don't clog up your playing time with pointless encounters. And, this is the thing. I remember, first of all, I always call them random encounters. I know some people say wandering encounters because the creatures are supposed to be wandering either the dungeon or the wilderness. And today I'm going to be talking about wilderness. Maybe I could do one for the dungeon too, but I tend to run in the wilderness more than dungeons. Some people want to say wandering. I just say random because it is a random encounter every few hexes or however, every hex or however you do it. If you're running these encounters, you roll to see randomly if something appears that you haven't just placed there. And some people don't like them. They want to set up every encounter beforehand. I get that. I use them. I like it. I like it when the dice tell me something has happened that I am, as an old school, referee type of a GM. I do this with reaction rolls. I do it with all sorts of things where I want to randomize this so that we're all dealing with this world that I've created that has its own rules, it has its own probabilities, and myself as the GM am dealing with that in a similar fashion that the players are. But here's the thing. If you play in a system like I do, and you're going to run some random encounter like like, 10 orcs, and here you are, roll initiative, fight. Oh, a manticore, here it flies in, roll initiative, fight. Well, first of all, it's not that interesting long term to just do battles, like in the old days in the dungeons. Okay, open a door, fight something, open a door, fight something. But secondly, oftentimes when I'm running a campaign, the players are off doing things. They've got to get here, and then they want to go there, and they sometimes have time constraints. But again, we only have so much time to play every week or sometimes every other week or something. And when you're doing random encounters, unless you are going to just tie those into whatever the players are doing, which is hokey because they're going to see that. I'm supposed to go to City A. We got this elaborate random encounter. So you find the document that you're looking for. Oh, they happen to have it. Well, no, that doesn't. I mean, again, there's ways around it without just getting rid of random encounters, which is what I want to talk about. So you don't want a monster. So let's talk about random encounters that you just think up. And again, you can put these on a chart if you want, instead of just picking them. I know some people don't like to do that, but I'm just going to give them in order of how I'm thinking about these. The first random encounter that isn't combat is something has just happened. And one of the most common of these is they're going along on a road and there's been a battle. There is a merchant caravan that's been destroyed. Maybe there are survivors, maybe not. And the caravan's been picked over and been abandoned. It's an encounter. We might have clues. Maybe someone has survived. They crawled underneath one of the wagons, and whoever attacked it didn't notice them. They can give the players clues as to what just happened. But whatever did attack it is long gone, and the players can rescue this person, gather that information, and keep moving. So they have an adventure hook here of maybe getting back to, when something valuable was stolen from the caravan. I'm just a lowly, guard or something, but I'm telling you, there was something there, right? So the players have this hook that they can go to. And if they're not in a hurry, then they can, if they want, go to investigate that. Then you're going to have to come up with something quick if you're going to give them that kind of clue. But they don't have to. The point is there was an encounter, and this thing happened and the players missed it. There's buzzards flying off in the distance. Something's docked. It happened before, it's dead, and they're preparing to land. Do the players want to leave the road and go over there? And you're giving them that option. They don't have to. If they choose to, then you might decide, okay, it was, it's a dead elk or something. Because again, it's a random encounter. You're saying there's a probability if you wander through the wilderness on these roads or wherever that things might come up. You're doing it in a non-combat thing so that we don't have to always just be fighting battles. But you could if they investigate it. Something's feeding on it. And another one similar to this is there's a fire off, this smoke rising in the trees off the road somewhere. Okay. Something happened in terms of a fire was lit. And it's still lit, right? So do the players want to investigate? So what all these lead then to is the second category, which is something is happening. So the caravan isn't just, you don't just find the remains. There's a battle going on. It's being attacked. And the players hear the sound of the battle. Something's happening off there. They rush up, and now it's happening right in front of them. What do they do? Or there's a battle between, let's say, groups of orcs just fighting off the road, or groups of whoever, bandits that are fighting each other, or a merchant carrier, whatever that is. But it's happening right now. There's some kind of battle. There's some kind of dispute. It could be merchants in the middle of the road arguing. Get out of my way. Get your cart off the road. I get to use the cart. Or something else. You stole something from me. And they rode up after them. And right then is this encounter. And the players don't have to necessarily get involved. Would the orcs stop their battle and attack the players? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're just off in a clearing off the road. Would the merchants just continue to argue and the players are on foot and they just go around it and keep going? I don't care about that. But we'll see. Because anytime conflict gets our attention, so the players may say, well, what's going on here? I'm going to adjudicate this, that sort of thing. And that's okay. And you should be able to do it quickly. Because again, you're trying to avoid, if you run a system like I do, like a Pathfinder, or when I ran 5e, if you get into a big fight, now we got to set that all up and we got to go through and roll initiative or whatever. And we've got 15, 20, half an hour. We're starting to lose more of our 4-hour session on a random encounter, which you can then tie into things. But again, you may not want to. And this gives you a perfect opportunity to do that. And again, along those lines, you can have some oddball character doing something like a preacher or someone by the side of the road preaching, and he exhorts to the players and he looks really bizarre. I had this one it was a long time ago. He was all covered in tattoos. This is before tattoos had any kind of power in the game. And he was preaching the one God, the true God, and they asked him about it. It wasn't a God that they'd heard from. And basically, it was a random encounter that turned into that he had been teleported from other places. It's a long story. But the point was, I just decided I'll just have this guy there doing it, and they can ignore him. And I think the first time they chose to ignore him, they ran into him again and decided to investigate. So he's there, he's happening, he's preaching by the roadside to whoever travels by. Another thing with something's happening is you can hear a battle in the distance instead of right there on the road. Do the players want to get involved? They can hear people screaming and shouting and fighting. So it's an encounter. I hear that, but I choose we've got to keep going, guys. Let's not waste our time with that. Similarly, there's a large sound in the distance. Boom! Maybe the players have a wizard or just their own experience, depending on your system. If you have to make some kind of perception check or something, that was a fireball. That was a lightning bolt. That was a big one. Something like that. And they hear it in the distance, off the road, somewhere else. Do they choose to ignore it, or do they choose to look into it? So that's where something is actually happening right at that moment. Another thing that you can do is to have wandering non-combatants. These are usually humanoids, but they can be monsters as well. If a Kirin lands, kind of an absurd thing, but let's just say it does, you're not going to fight it. And it just may say, I just came down to see what you guys are doing, and then I'm going to fly away. Maybe I'll give you one question, right? The Gold Dragon example, I've seen that recently in a campaign. The Gold Dragon landed, asked us what we were doing, and flew off. And it was just a random encounter. I think it was just rolled on the chart. It's an OD&D type system. So it's a non-combatant thing. But more typically than some super powerful, lawful good creature is just going to be, a group of wandering minstrels in their wagons. They're just traveling along. Well, you might talk to them. Hey, have seen anything interesting? Heard any good stories? Oh, we got 1 million stories. It cost you a gold piece or whatever, 5 to have us sing it. Okay. And you tell them some legend or some event, and then the players move on. And you just do it quickly. Wandering pilgrims, right? They're going along. They've left their homeland or their city because of persecution or something, and they're just going along in carts. The players see them, exchange a few words, maybe make an offering to them, give them a little, silver pieces or something, but move on. Again, if they talk to the pilgrims, well, yes, we're being persecuted in this city. There's a new regime there that doesn't tolerate any kind of neutral religion. Really? Where's that? Oh, it's to the south, outside. Maybe the purview of the players, maybe they're familiar with it. And again, I'm just making this up, right? It's a random encounter. So if they want to investigate that, I got to come up with something. So you can always have it that's just who they are. They're wandering pilgrims, no big deal. If the players are nice to them, however, mark that down. That has become part of the world. They were nice to these traveling pilgrims. Now the players, if they go to some place or whatever, and you can set it up where the pilgrims have found refuge in the city. They see the players and they say, "How let us, give you a free meal, a place to stay, something like that, and information that the players may need to know, or just stuff that you want them to know that comes from a logical source because they helped out the pilgrims." And another one, it's related to the pilgrim one, but a little different, a family on the move. They're refugees, or their farm was attacked and burned down. They just took whatever they had, and and maybe they're just abject poverty. They just are horrible. The players can give them something to help them. Again, now they have a new friend, and the farms have all been being harassed by, night raiders of some kind, whatever that is in your system. So now the players know about this. These homesteads are out there. Maybe the homesteads are, intruding on, orcs had this traditional area of land. There's population growth. People start to push into that. So maybe it's something where the players aren't necessarily going to get involved or change it, but maybe it's not. Maybe people are or creatures are intruding on an area designated for these settlers. So they just see the people on the road and decide, do I want to stop? Do I just keep going? Because we are in a hurry to do whatever. Or do I stop and I get involved? Another classic is the runaway. Doesn't have to be, the runaway we think of in modern times, some teenager person or something. It's an acolyte who's run off from their temple, and they're going along the road. They look bedraggled. They don't know how to take care of themselves. They're frightened, whatever, like a runaway would be. And the players stop and say, "What's going on?" "Oh, the master had gone insane. And I took this book, because I knew this was a dark secret," or whatever. I mean, I'm just, now it's just spinning in my head. But a runaway is someone that the players can befriend, take along with them. There'll be a non-combatant. They go to the city, they set them up, whatever. And again, someone else. And then find out maybe they shouldn't have run away. Because, in real life, runaways, again, if they're in a horrible situation, again, there's always some story. So maybe they should have or shouldn't have. But they give they send the runaway to a place where they can be safe, and they get a little information. And it's non-combat. They're not going to fight the runaway. And then my final one is a sudden event that just occurs. So the classic one is an earthquake occurs, and the ground shakes and everything. Maybe there's a split in the ground or something like that. Trees are falling, the road is broken up, a bridge collapses. I mean, I can start to think of these things. But that's all it is. That it passes, and then the players, what's happening? Because when you have earthquakes, people think something else is going on. It is a fantastical world with gods and demigods and elemental forces. So this could be the cause of the earthquake. But for now, it's just a random encounter, and then you can worry about what it is later. Another classic is a sudden flood. This can be a gully along the road, a flash flood that suddenly goes across the road in front of the players. Was it something where they have to get out of the way, or is it something that's just cutting off the road and you're seeing things being swept by and the players just sort of watch? Do they need to rescue someone, that's been swept into it? All that kind, because they see them coming down the channel. Do they make an attempt to rescue them? It could be fun. It could be an interesting little encounter that takes 10 minutes, something like that. And then finally the waters recede as they do. Or is it raining really heavily? Again, an unnaturally powerful storm occurs. And everyone is just like, never seen this much rain fall in this, and there's flash floods, and suddenly people are being swept away. So now you can turn it into something that might take a little longer to deal with. And it's clearly something unusual. But it doesn't have to be. It can be just something that's again, a random encounter where you just have a battle and you kill the manicore because it was out feeding. That's usually the end of that, unless you're trying to figure out where it lives. So these non-combatants, you can have them lead to other things or these events, but you don't have to. You're just trying to get away from roll initiative, let's have a fight. And that's the idea behind these, what I call non-combat random encounters, where you're giving information, you're giving your world flavor, you're making, you're increasing the verisimilitude that there are people wandering, going back and forth, doing their business or living lives or running away or whatever it is. But it isn't always just, let's have another battle. And a shout out to my Patreon supporters. This week I did Magic Fog. It was really fun, really interesting. I love to do this kind of stuff, these natural phenomena. I'd love to hear you. What you think? Do you like to do random monsters? How do you handle that? Do you do non-combat ones? Like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. And most importantly, as always, my friends, keep playing an RPG game, whichever one you choose, and tell somebody else about it.